Cisco switch. So what is switch? Basically, switch is a device which connect same network devices. It's opposite of router. Router was a device to connect different network, but Cisco switch used to connect same network devices. Router was layer 3 device. Cisco switch can be a layer 2 device and it can be a layer 3 device. Layer 3 device we normally call them multi-layer switch as well. But by default, every layer 3 device also work as a layer 2 device until and unless you change his mode. Router work on packet base, Cisco switch work on frame base. Every network need a Cisco switches to connect the devices. Your end devices. It can be a printer, fax machine, iPad, iPod, access point. All these things can be connected through switch. And we will discuss there are 3 layers of switches, like a core switches, and we have distributed switches, and we have access layer switches, which is coming in the course. But here I am generally speaking what is switch. Switch can be managed locally and it can be managed remotely through telnet or SSH, and it can be configured graphically as well somehow. And it's also using operating system iOS CLI base. Just like a router is also same like a switch as well. Just like our laptop, so Cisco switch is also the same way. There is some port to connect the devices. Okay. There is a console port and blah, those things. Now the operating system. We already discussed what is operating system. Enter operating system. Typical switch is using iOS operating system, which I already explained you in router. The same can be used here. But this operating system can be configured through CLI, command line interface. And I also using share memory and share process, the typical operating system which I am talking about, iOS. If I go to this switch and check them, so you will see typical operating system inside. Enable and show version. Here is Cisco iOS, enter operating system. So switch is also using the same like a router operating system, enter network operating system. And if you type show version, it will show you. Another operating system is Nexus operating system, NX. And this is a powerful operating system, Linux based operating system which use in data center switches. It processes huge. Before Cisco gave them a name storage area network operating system, SAN. Later on they changed the name to Cisco Nexus switches, Nexus operating system. It's a powerful operating system, and there is a special type of switches. I believe it's here. This thing, Nexus switches, which made to process huge data. And if I go there, let me show you Nexus. I think one of them I already on. So let me stop this one. CSR router, I already show you router. This one. So let me go to Nexus. There is something wrong in this one. So I need to reboot. So it's gonna be an issue. So let me stop this one. Stop and start again. So this is the Nexus operating system. And normally we call them 7K, 9K. Okay, so this is the for data center. Okay, and most of the command are different than the Cisco iOS one. Some of the command is similar like iOS router CLI, but most of them are different, and they have a different feature and capability, not like a typical switch. Okay, and especially made for the data center. Okay, other operating systems, Cisco switches, Cat OS, Cisco iOS XR, Cisco iOS XE, Cisco iOS SX. By the way, some of them I already show you, and router as well. So here the same concept. Okay, because at the end of the day they are using same operating system. Now coming to catalyst switches. Normally when you go to real environment, so most of them they are discussing we have a catalyst switch 72, we have a catalyst switch 65 series. So you will say, what the hell is catalyst switch? Basically Catalyst was a company before in old days. Actually Catalyst switch, they made these switches. What Cisco done, Cisco hired that company and they get all the switches from that Catalyst company switch. So Cisco gave them the name Catalyst switches. So Catalyst is nothing, it's not like a something which is a special type of operating system or special type of food or something. No, it's the name of the company. So when they hire the company, so they give them the name. Suppose if you buy something from me and you give them the name Ahmad something. So later on they give them the name Catalyst. So by this name these devices been famous. Even though it's a Cisco now. So they call them, at the beginning Catalyst was a company and they made their own operating system with the name Cat OS. Catalyst operating system. When Cisco hired this company, they changed the name and make them iOS operating system, which is the typical one. Now is the typical one. By the way, in old days, we use this iOS for year and year. But now suddenly everything's changed. So Cisco introduced a new operating system. Like a Windows 10 we have. Old days we have Windows 98. So if you heard this word that catalyst switch, it means they are talking about the old switches which using the iOS operating system. Clear? Done. Let's go to another one. Nexus switches. Now this is the Cisco their own operating system. Cisco introduced Nexus operating system with more powerful. And this is a totally different operating system. Much better than the iOS operating system. And if you say show version, you will see NXOX. So it means they have a Nexus operating system. If I can run this one, if there, so I will show you. Oh, it's still the issue, so leave it. So this is the powerful switches which can be used in Cisco data center. Nexus switches. Then modular switches. Again, just like a modular router, this is modular switches. If you can change something, you can change the module, you can change the power supply, you can change the cooling fan, you can change everything, you can change power supply, you can put additional interfaces, you can remove the interfaces. That means these are modular switches. Fixed switches, whatever they have, if they have 2 port, you can use 2 port. That's it. You cannot modify anything. It's called a fixed switches. Standalone switch. When you install a separate switch to work individually and manage individually, troubleshoot individually, it's called a standalone switch. Just like a one piece. Stackable switches. When you combine, there are some switches, many different version, many type. Not every switch can be a stackable. There are special type of switches Cisco made which can work together like a team. So this is called stackable switches. It will become like a one switch. When you combine the many switches, maybe there is an image, yeah, this one. There is a daisy chain, you will combine them, you will plug like this way, special type of switches to make them as a one to work together. So it will provide you a density, and also it will run only one CDP, one STP, one VTP, one management IP, and there are many switches. Normally we use stackable switches and access layer switches. We will discuss about access layer switches later in the course. Then there are some switches which we call them layer 2 switches. It's purely working based on MAC addresses and it's forward the frame from one interface to another interface, and it's used for the same network, and it's work on based on MAC address. Again, we will discuss MAC address later in the course. This is called layer 2 switches, but there are layer 3 switches as well, either multi-layer switches, which work on layer 3. It can work as a layer 2 and it can work as a layer 3. You need to enable some command to work like a layer 3, like IP routing and other thing. If it is working like a layer 3 or multi-switch, so it work like a router. And it's very famous in every organization. You will find out layer 3 switches nowadays. But it's a good one because it's work like differently. You can do routing as well and you can do layer 2 capability as well. So this is called layer 3 or the multi-layer switches. Then there are some switches which is unmanaged switches. Unmanaged switches, you cannot do any configuration. It's a plug and play devices, just like a home router and switches. Just plug them. You cannot log into the switch. You cannot do anything. You cannot change anything. You cannot configure anything. It's called unmanaged switch. Then there is managed switch, like a Cisco, any switches. When you enter, you use CLI, you use graphical, you can manage them, you can monitor them, you can configure them. It's called managed switches. Okay, so unmanaged switch and managed switch. Then how switch work, we will see in detail later in the course. But layer 2 switches work purely on basis on MAC address, which is our next topic tomorrow. This one, what is MAC address and how it is working. But anyway, switches normally work based on MAC addresses. We will discuss MAC address in detail. Okay, they have a MAC address table which we call them CAM table, content addressable memory, CAM table. We call them CAM table, MAC table, and which they keep the MAC addresses. Okay, and they process those MAC addresses. For how long they keep, we will discuss tomorrow. For 300 seconds, you can increase, you can decrease the timing as well. Okay, then there is another concept, switch virtual interface, SVI. We can use SVI both in layer 2 and layer 3 switches. It's very good thing. SVI everywhere you will use them. You can use SVI for management as well, and you can also use them for routing purpose as well. And layer 3 we use SVI for routing purpose, and layer 2 we use SVI for management purpose, but we can use in layer 3 for management purpose as well. SVI is nothing but when you type a command interface VLAN 10, VLAN 20, this is called SVI, switch virtual interface. We call them SVI because in switch, how you will manage them remotely. So you need to type IP and you need to assign IP to VLAN. And when you assign IP to VLAN, we call them switch virtual interface, SVI. So it can be used for different purpose in layer 2 and layer 3 for routing services and also for management purpose. In layer 3 for 2 purpose, in layer 2 for 1 purpose. Okay, again we already discussed. So switch, we already have a ROM, read-only memory, we have random access memory, and we have NVRAM, and we have a flash memory where operating system are there. And read-only memory is a many operating system are there. RAM, random access memory, and running configuration are there. NVRAM, startup configuration are there. Again, we can check with show version, which I already told you, and I already told you for how long the system is up. So you can find out from show version. This the system image version and the flash memory, operating system detail, RAM all together. When you make plus them, so it will give you RAM. How many interfaces are there? NVRAM and also flash memory. So you can find all these detail from show version. Okay, that's it. This is the normal configuration. No need to discuss that one. So this was Cisco switch.